What's up guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make deep, minimal micro house. I've talked a bit about the style before. I've gotten a bunch of new tips that I'm going to show you guys today and bless you guys with. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video is available right at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. You get a really solid template with all the samples, MIDI, presets, and the Ableton file. Plus, it really helps support me. I don't make a whole lot off of YouTube, but with these project files and templates, I'm able to keep going and keep bringing you guys new videos every single day. You can also check out my custom private tutorials as well as track finishing and ghost production. The link for that is also at the top of the description. So yeah, thanks for the support, guys. Let's dive in. So, we're at 128 BPM, and the first thing I'm going to show you here is going to be the lows. Now, when you're making a track in this style, you always want to start with the kick and the bass. That's why I'm showing this to you first. The reason is, obviously, when you hear a track like this, you might think, it's the synths, or it's the vocal, or it's that stuff that's going to make the track. But actually, that stuff is really just going to sit on top of this foundation that's made up of the kick and the bass and the drums and all of that. So you got to start with the most basic stuff, being the kick and the bass. Because if these two aren't, you hear this heavy groove between these two. If you don't have that, it's going to be, the rest of your track is not going to work. So, for the kick, you can hear it's this nice punchy 909 style kick. That's what you usually want to use for these tracks. Then we have this bass. This bass line, we're in the key of F minor, or F sharp minor, and it's only 3 notes. It's just F sharp, our root note, A, our minor third, and then B, our fourth. And so you can hear this bass line where it just walks up the scale and then back down. Pretty simple stuff, but it's not just the notes that you're using, it's also that groove. So you want to listen to this with the kick when you're writing the bass line. And you can kind of notice a pattern here, see how there's not that many notes in the first half and then a lot of notes in the second half. Not that many notes in the first half, a lot of notes in the second half. So there's this groove created by that kind of call and response thing. And that's beyond just the actual notes that you're using, right? The actual notes that you're using are just different percussion hits, and then you actually have to put those percussion hits in the right places. Now, for the bass sound, it's very simple. As you can see, it's very little processing. You really want to focus on making a good sound in the synth, and then you don't need all that extra processing versus making a kind of weak bass sound in the synth, and then having to go and do a bunch of extra processing that ultimately it's still never going to sound as good as just making a fat synth inside of the actual synth like this. So, we've got analog here. We have a saw wave and a square wave. So it creates a super fat waveform. And you can see I have a low pass filter with an envelope as well as a bit of key tracking. And then, so it's a very simple sound, but it's just very fat and powerful because you have the saw wave and the square wave coming together. And then you take out all the mids and highs, but it leaves all the fat low end there with the low pass filter. Then it's just being sidechained to the kick, a little bit of EQ to make it fit with the kick. And then I just have these in a group. You can see I don't have any processing on that group. But it's still good because this way when we're mixing the track, you can turn down the low end kind of as one group. So then we have some hi-hats. You can see for our main hi-hat we have 2 layers. We got a very punchy hi-hat, and then this more 909 style hi-hat, but when you put them together you get something very full. There's also these two just kind of dancing around that. You can hear these two kind of play off of each other as well. Then we have the clap. And this one is really more about the sample selection. There's not any processing or really anything done to it. It's just like when I was making this, I just tested out a bunch of different claps, and then finally this is the one that sat really nicely over top of the beat. We also have some background rim shots. See, kind of alternating between those two. We also have some operator percussion. So this is actually like percussion made with a synth. So this first one here is this little zap. So it's a square wave with a bit of FM from this sine wave here. You can see it's detuned. And then we just have a pitch envelope. Pretty simple, but it gives you that kind of nice like zappy sound that you actually hear in a lot of these tracks. This is how you can make that really simply. And you can also hear that plays off of the other rim shot. Then we have this. So what this is some white noise with a bandpass filter with a little bit of an envelope on it. Very simple sound. But you get this kind of like punchy percussion, and then what I'm doing is I automated the filter frequency so it opens and closes. So you get this kind of like morphing percussion. And then we just have a little bit of delay on that. Then we just have another little like bloop sound. And then we actually have our last bit of synth percussion, which is also made with operator. So what's happening is this is just going like kind of like this steady like just grooving thing in the background. You can hear that. And what this is made of is it's white noise with a bandpass filter with an envelope. It's actually very similar to that other synth percussion I showed you already. And then for movement on this one, instead of automating the filter, I have an LFO on the filter cutoff, you can see there. And that's just like slowly moving that filter around. So you can hear it slightly changing over time. And then I have this resonator on it. So here's without this. And with it. So that's what gives it that like metallic kind of membrane. You can see I've got it tuned to F sharp because that's the key we're in. We have a little bit of bit crushing actually and some drum bus, which drum bus really helps, and the bit crushing too, when you're making the synth percussion to make it feel more like an actual like percussion hit. Then we have this auto pin, which gives it a little bit of space. And then a high pass filter. And then the last percussion down here is just these two hi-hats. Just some more that kind of play off each other and add a little bit more. This one right here, this 15 hi-hat 3, is actually very important to the groove. If I turn it off. And then back on again, you can really hear that. Like it's making a big difference in there and kind of carrying things along a bit. Cool. So that's all the drums. So again, I would start when you're making the track like this with just this stuff. Like when I made this is what I had before I had any of the synths or vocals or anything. You want to set this foundation. So, now what we're going to look at here is going to be the synth stabs. And you see why I say you need to have those drums and the bass is because if we just play the synth stabs on their own, you can spend all day making these, but if you just have these on their own, you know, it's a bit messy. So you can see this is a bit complex, or so it may seem. Really, it's just kind of creating this groove. I treat these like percussions. Like, you pick what key you're in, and then you use just notes from that scale, and just put the different chords in different places where they play off each other. Like, you can see over here, for example, like these two, playing at the same time. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Like, you're creating these little grooves. Like like that little groove there. That's what you're trying to create with all these different chords. So I'll just show you a few of the patches. Most of these are made with operator. It's either operator or like for example, this one here is just an organ stab with some chords. This is like this operator patch. You can see it's mostly just a bit of FM, some sine waves just at different pitches. Bit of like filter with an envelope. This one, it's actually got some automation, so that's like this FM sound. And then that low pass filter, but there's also an envelope on that. This one. And again, these are all just basic like F sharp minor chords. This is an F sharp minor 7 actually. This one is just like a little, it's got like that opening envelope there. This one. And we also have this. So you can see, FM synthesis is really good for these, because if you're using a lot of saw waves and square waves over and over, that works for some of them. Like I used it for one of these. But if you use a lot of saw waves and square waves and kind of like basic additive or subtractive synthesis, it's going to get a bit flat. Like it's going to get a bit dull because those sounds get really repetitive, right? But with FM, you can create these different textures, and every single one of these can be slightly different, even if it's starting from similar building blocks, and you can really create some interesting steps. So I recommend that. Operator is amazing for this style of music. And then on the group of these, there's no processing. All the processing is just individually on them, but there is a little bit of a sidechain. Just a sidechain into the kick to keep it kind of in the groove a little bit more. You see, it's actually a very subtle little bit of sidechain there. But I find without this, it doesn't really like fit into the track as well. Like if you turn this off. Yeah, see, it's that subtle thing that's going to just really like pull it all together and make it all fit together nicely. And then the last element down here is just this vocal. It's like this kind of soulful vocal. Just got it going through a little bit of echo. You know, pretty simple. But the thing I want to highlight with this is that it's not that much about the processing. Like I think a lot of times people think vocals, especially with this style, you know, it's about processing and giving it all this texture and stuff. Really, you just want to find a sample that already has a good texture to it. Like this already is nice and textured. And then a bit of echo or reverb, you know, you want to give it some space. But really it's about finding something great and bringing it in, rather than just taking whatever vocal, putting a bunch of over processing on it, and then wondering why it doesn't sound good. But this is not the case here. Again, it's just a solid vocal, bit of echo, and that's all you need. And also you'll notice the stabs kind of take a little break while this is playing, so that you don't have it all overlapping. And yeah, so that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, every single thing from this video is available right at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. You get this really solid template, so you have everything you need to make the best track you've ever made in the style. Plus, it really helps support me. I don't make a whole lot off of YouTube, but if you enjoy these videos, definitely go grab this. If you've ever learned anything from me, if this video helped you out, go grab this. It'll help support me, so I can keep bringing you guys new videos like this every single day. Thank you so much for the support, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.